Hey everybody, welcome back to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to take a look at a new plugin collection from our good friends at IK-MultiMedia. This is the Tascam Tape Machine collection. This is really cool. I think you guys are really going to dig it. We're going to listen to it today for the first time on a master bus on an unprocessed track so we could hear what these different flavors of these Tascam tape machines do. But before we get to that, if you like what you see in this video, please consider subscribing and also hit the notification bell so you know when I'm posting new content. Also, if this is your first time here, I want to give you a free mixing course worth about $100. Go to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. Right on the homepage, you'll see the big orange button. Download your free course today and check it out. And if you stick around till the end of the video, I'm going to give you something else for free. So stick around. So here we are in Studio One with our Tascam tape machine collection. Now, full disclosure, IK-MultiMedia did send me this plugin license for free so I can bring this review to you. They are not paying me for the video, nor do we discuss what's going to be said in the video, but I'm a fan of a lot of the IK-MultiMedia products, especially the tape machines. And if you haven't seen my previous tape machine video when they did another series of different types of tape machines, I'll link it in the description box below. Go check that out. I've also done videos on their Mixbox plugins and some this IK-MultiMedia Sunset Sound plugin. So there's a lot of their plugins I really enjoy, and I like bringing them to you there. But just so you know, they did give me this for free. They also gave me 3 additional plugin licenses that I'm going to be able to give away as part of our monthly mixing contest over at my mixing membership website, mixingmadeeasy.net. So make sure you click the link in the description box below if you want to learn the craft of mixing. Great for beginners and intermediates, and you want to have an opportunity to win really cool plugins every single month as part of our mixing contest, and so much more. Check out mixingmadeeasy.net. So this one was given to me for free. So they just released these 4 tape machines. Okay, so we have on the top left-hand corner here, the TIAC A6100 Mark II. Beneath that, we have the Tascam 388. In the top right, we have the Tascam TIAC A3340S. And then beneath that, in the bottom right, we have the Tascam Mini Studio, the Porta Studio, which is really cool. I used to have one of these Porta Studios. That was my first multi-track recorder. So we're going to listen to this on a master bus one at a time here, and we're going to take a look at the IK-MultiMedia website and check out what they have to say so you have a little bit of information about this. And you can check the link in the description box if you want to go pick these up at IK-MultiMedia's website. I do not get a commission or anything if you buy the plugins, but just so you know that, you could go ahead and you can check that out today. So the first one we're going to listen to this A6100. But before we even get to that, let's go out to the IK-MultiMedia website and let's just take a look at what the A6100 is all about. So when you go to the link in the description box, you're going to come to this page here. This is the Tascam collection here for Tascam's 50th anniversary. And you can read about what they're doing here. And there's a little video for you to check it out. And they have a little blurb here on what this whole thing is about, recreating the magic of these old tape machines in the analog domain. And so we're going to take a look down here. And the first one we're going to look at is the TIAC A6100 Mark II. And if we take a read of what this is, the TIAC A6100 MkII mastering recorder is still highly sought after today, thanks to both its robust design and incredible sound, featuring controls to fine-tune your sound, including record and playback EQ settings. The A6100 MkII is one to add tape warmth and color to your master bus and more. So here is the original photo of it down here. And then here is the plugin. They always do a really good job, IK-MultiMedia, with the look of the plugin itself. And here we go here. So let's walk through the controls. Now, I haven't even listened to these yet. I'm doing this for you live. Usually I play with these for a bit and then bring it to you. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of do it live off the cuff so you can get my initial reaction. All these tape machines are on a master bus on a completely unmixed track. Now, the one thing I will say about IK-MultiMedia's tape machines, even the other 4 in the tape machine collection review that I did, they are very CPU heavy. Meaning these are really designed to be on your master bus or maybe have 1 or 2 instances of this on your system. They are not designed to be put across every single track. Your computer won't be able to handle it. This one instance of this particular plugin, if I look at my performance monitor here in Studio One, is already running at 24%. Okay, and that's running in, if you have Studio One version 5.4, enable nap mode for the plugins, which means if I take nap off, still going to run about 24%. Once I start playing back audio, it's going to creep up even further than that. Okay, so this is only one instance of this, so just keep that in mind. Let's walk through the controls here. So it's a pretty simple layout here. We have an auto calibration button here. We have some bias and record levels here for the record heads, the level and the high EQ, because as it said, you can adjust the EQ. Because one thing about tape, analog tape, when you run audio through analog tape, it will tend to roll off the top end a little bit, and it'll add a little bit of compression and some saturation. So you can gain some of that high end back by using the high end EQ. We'll check that out. Then on the playhead, we have a high EQ and also a low EQ. Okay, if you wanted to give it a little bit more of a bump. Okay. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have a reset to bring everything back to its default settings. We have our input. True stereo. So the true stereo, just like their other tape machine collection, when you have true stereo enabled, it means that the left and right signal is going to be exactly the same. When you take it out of true stereo, that means that there could be, depending on the program material, some variations of or signal going to the left and right channels. Not enough that you can really hear an obvious difference, like everything's coming out of just one side of my speakers, but it gives you some of that little bit of difference between the left and right channels. Okay, that's what true stereo does. You can model the transport section of this, or just the play, just the record heads or the play heads. Transport will do the whole, both, which we want. We have our output. We have a power button here. Okay, we can just model the input or also the record, the repro. So you can have, again, the input's only going to do the input transformers and nothing else. The repo is going to do also all of the tape heads and such, which is typically what I would keep it on, but we'll switch between it. We have a low and high tape speed. So it's not like 15 IPS, 30 IPS, 7¼ inches per second. It's just low and high, okay? And then we have our different tape formulas. We have the 911, the 456, and you'll see the reel up here will change a little. The 499, and then the GP9, which are the red reels here, okay? So we'll cycle through those as well. And I believe that's it. You can also resize the window here by bottom right-hand corner by dragging, which is great, which all plug-in manufacturers would do this. And then we have a bunch of presets up here if you want to do that, and you can save your own presets as well. So the other tape machines are all shut off. This is the only tape machine we're using. Let's listen to what this does, and let's just see what it does by hitting it, pretty considerably and then turning it on and off. Here we go.
Away from you, and I'll be fine. And nothing gonna put it back in order. No, I'll always have this too. Little piece of you. Slipping through my hands, back in the darkness, blind the day. Back the light, where is pleasure in pain.
Okay, so I cranked up the input so we're hitting it at a pretty decent rate, and then lowered the output to level match it. So let's start with just going from low to high tape speed and just see what that does.
Where is my shelter in the rain? Well, I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feet away from you.
Okay, so you might don't know how this will come across on YouTube because it is kind of a subtle effect. So I'll explain to you what I'm hearing in my headphones. On low tape speed, you're getting a little bit more of a bottom end, a little bit thicker, a little bit more compression. The slower the tape moves, the more compression you're going to get, depending on how hard you hit the tape. You're going to get a little bit of a low end bump, a little bit more or a little less top end, a little bit more of a roll off. The higher tape speed, it's going to be a little bit more punchy because the transient's going to sneak through a little bit more, especially on the low end. Okay, so that's the difference here. And now let's cycle through on the low tape speed. We'll cycle through just the input and just the repro and just see what that does.
Put it back in order, but no, I will always have this too. A little piece of you.
So again, to explain what I'm hearing, when you're just using the input side, it seems to get a little bit more present. And I think that's because you're kind of bypassing the tape heads and such. When you use the repro, again, it seems like it gives you more of that tape sound because you're running it through more of electronics. Okay, let's cycle through the different tape formulas. We're on the 911 right now.
Help me, I lay on my I know the changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged. You're tearing me down. Where does the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that I've left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you.
Okay, so the tape formula is interesting because on the original 4 tape machine collection I did with the different formulas, there was a much more obvious difference in the sonic characteristics of the EQ curve. This seems to be a little bit more subtle, especially the GP9. Usually has a little bit thicker low end to it than when I'm on the other plugins. So this is a much more subtle kind of a thing, but different tape formulas are going to give you kind of a different EQ curve a little bit. That's the thing here. Now, again, I didn't go into the manual and read about each one of the formulas and exactly what they do. You can do that on your own. This is my first impression, but I will say it's kind of subtle, real subtle. I'm typically, just my personal taste, I typically always like the GP9. It has a little bit more of a modern sound to me. But that, again, there's not that much of a difference here. Let's go on the high setting and cycle through and see if we hear any more obvious difference.
I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. My hands, back in the darkness, blind the day. Bring back the light, where is pleasure in pain.
Okay, again, still very subtle, maybe a little less subtle because on the higher tape speed, again, you're not having as much compression. You're having a little bit more of the transient sneak through, and some of the low end changes a little bit in that regard. So between the low and the tape high speeds here, the tape speeds, you have a nice little variety of very subtle differences depending on the program material. So as I said, this track is completely unmixed. There's no processing except for this plugin on the whole mix, because I would like to, so you could really hear what just this plugin is doing to the mix without all the other plugins kind of getting in the way. But obviously you would put this on a finished mix. And depending on the program material, you have enough variation here, subtle variation, to where you can shape the sound depending on what you need. Okay, so now let's try, let's just take the transport modeling in and out. Let's see what that does. And then I'll come over here to the high EQ. We'll use on low tape speed. We're going to get a little bit more compression and bring some of that low and high EQ back in to see how that helps.
Where is my shelter in the rain? Well, I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that I left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But no, I will always have this.
So a little bit of a low end bump there, a little bit more in the bass guitar here with the transport modeling engaged. Let's check out this EQ section here. Let's see what we have here on the record side.
I know the seasons like to change, it's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged, you're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that I've left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you. I'll be fine.
Okay, so the high EQ really subtle, but there's just enough being brought back in to not make it harsh or not sound musical. Even at its highest setting, it sounds pretty musical. Let's try the playhead and let's see what that does. Now we have a high frequency and a low frequency and also a level control here as well. As you heard, you could adjust the level. But again, when you adjust the level, you want to make sure you adjust your output. So when you turn your plugin on and off, up here at the top left-hand corner, the volume is the same, right? You want to level match your plugin.
Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you. But can we let this slip away, slipping through my hands, back in the dark. darkness blind the day, bring back the light. Where is pleasure in pain?
So you can really shape the sound. You heard, hopefully I'll do this again, bypass this plugin. When you start using the EQ, you could really hear this thing change quite a bit. Right. So this is really great. Like if you know, a lot of times if we feel like we're missing a little bit of high end, or a lot of times on a master bus, a lot of engineers will put like a master bus EQ. They'll bump a little low end, they'll pump a little top end, they'll scoop out a little bit of the mids. That's, you know, kind of that smiley face thing. Not using an EQ, you can do it just with these EQ settings on this tape machine, which is really cool. So listen to the difference when I just bypass the plugin just in the EQ.
Where is my shelter in the rain? Well, I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that are left of me, I'm alright. Get away from you.
A lot more hi-fi sounding, right? Very interesting, very interesting. So don't be afraid to grab this EQ and use it, because this will really help shape the sound. So that is the A6100 Mark II. Let's shut this one off and we'll move through the other ones a little bit faster now that you kind of get the idea, right? And again, you can always go out to their website and you can go demo these and download them and all that stuff, right? So you can download and demo these things, I think for 14 days, if I remember right. Check the IK-MultiMedia website for that information. So this is the A3340S. Let's get over to our wonderful IK-MultiMedia website here and let's see what this one's all about. So the TIAC A3340S is a 4-track tape recorder behind some of the most famous demos and songs in history. For example, the Doobie Brothers used the 3340S to record several of the song demos that earned them a record deal, while Brian Eno and others still use it today for sonic quality. Okay, so it's a 4-track tape machine, reel-to-reel tape machine. There it is all in its glory. Really cool. Let's get back to Studio One. Let's take a listen. Again, you can see the layouts. All the controls are the same. They're just positioned a little bit different depending on the plugin. Very consistent input-output, record level with the VU meter, with all our level controls, bias controls, and EQ. We can do the input or the repro. We can turn those. We got the playhead here with the low frequency and high frequency EQ. We have our same tape formulas, low and high speed, true stereo, all the same stuff, just looks a little bit different. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, let's set it up here.
I know the seasons like to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life?
Okay, so instantly, just turning it on and off and level matching the plugin with the input and the output, I already hear a much larger audible difference than we did in the last one. So this is what I mean. These collections are really cool because they're not just, you know, they all kind of sound the same and it just seems like you're getting a bunch of plugins in a package and they really aren't any different from each other. No, they're very different from each other. This has a much more audible difference, and we haven't really done anything yet. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to go low tape speed, high tape speed, and I will cycle through the tape formulas. Let's start on the low tape speed.
I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that are left of me, I'm alright. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too. A little piece of you. My hands, back in the darkness, blind the day. Bring back the light. Where is pleasure in pain? Where is my shelter in rain? Well, I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that are left of me, I'm alright. Get away from you. Now
Okay, so even just like with the last plugin we looked at, lower high settings, same kind of reaction, which would you would expect as far as the way the low end is kind of a little bit more present with the high tape speed than the low tape speed. The tape formulas, again, are very subtle between the four, not that much of a difference. Let's check out the high EQ on our record side and also the high and low EQ on the play side. And then we'll turn the plugin on and off again so we can hear the overall difference.
I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you. On my I know the seasons about to change, it's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged, it's tearing me down.
So again, really interesting. When you're on the low tape speed, you turn this thing on and off, you can instantly hear the low end go away when you take it out of the circuit, and you could hear the compression. It gets a lot more compression with it. And I've even added back some of the high end EQ. I've also given it a little bit of low end bump. So again, there's a lot of tonal variation here.
Where does the peacefulness lie? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back.
Okay, sounds great. Much different than the others. So again, you have a lot of tonal variations here. Depending on what you're putting it on, you can shape the sound in a lot of different ways. Very musical, very usable for sure. Let's shut that one off and let's go to the third one of the pack here. The third one we're going to take a look at is our 338 Studio 8. This is probably some kind of an 8-track thing here. This looks a little bit different. Let's check this out. Let's go to the IK Multimedia website again. Let's see what this one's all about. So here is the Studio 8 Professional Noise Reduction DBX1. Wow. Okay, so the Tascam 388, which was a huge success, combining a mixing console and tape machine in one to create a real winner. Kelly Schultz made the 388 famous again around 2001 when he used it to record some hit songs, and their sound went viral. Ever since, the 388 has kept its magical status. So you can see it here where they've combined like an 8-track console along with a tape machine built into one unit. Very interesting, very interesting. So if you take a look at the way this is laid out, again, we have an input here on the left with a fader. We have our record section here with our high EQ or level and our bias here. We have now a high, a mid, and a low shelf, not a parametric, but a high, mid, and low EQ here from the console, which is pretty cool, a little different this time. We have, again, the transport modeling, the true stereo. We have our different tape formulas. Now this one, we have a 35, a 456, a 499, and a GP9. So again, slightly different tape formulas. You can see it changing under the hood here. There's this little hood open. That would be really cool if it did. It doesn't. If the little door flipped up, that would be kind of fun. Anyway, and then we have our output here. So again, a little bit different controls here, but a lot of the same stuff. Let's listen to it and let's set this up and let's see how this sounds. Here we go. Turn it on first.
I know the seasons about to change, it's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged, it's tearing me down. Where does the peacefulness lie?
Okay, so a little bit less subtle on the low end bump, but you can hear a little bit of that compression. We're not slamming it too hard, but we're hitting it at a pretty good rate. Let's start with our tape formulas. And do we have a high and low tape speed here? I didn't see that on this. Okay, we don't have the adjustment. At least I don't see it. Let me just look here one more time. No, I don't see that we have an adjustment for the different inches per second. The tape speed is kind of predetermined. So all we got is the tape formula. That's interesting. So here's the 35. We'll go to the 456, 499, and the GP9. Here we go.
Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so again, what I'm hearing here is from top to bottom, the 35 is a lot more warmer. Some maybe say darker, but I don't mean darker in a bad way. And as you move up the ladder here, it gets a little more open in the mids and the upper mids. And then the GP9 has the most open sound to my ear here. But again, subtle, very subtle, but very usable. And now let's check out the EQ here. And let's just see with this more darker or warmer on the 35 formula. Let's see if we add some EQ in, how that kind of helps things a little bit. So we have our frequency selector here from 2.5K to 15K. So we have a big range here. And then our plus or minus 15 dB is going to be on the right-hand side. So we have high, mid, and low, probably the EQ that was on the console. Here we go.
Well, I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that I left in me, I'm alright. Feel away from you. I'll be fine. Cleaning up the car, put it back in order. But no, I will always have this too. A little piece of you. Help me dry all my tears and help me lay on my.
So the EQ is fantastic. So again, cutting out a little bit of mids here at around 500 to get rid of some of the boxiness and the honkiness because the song is not mixed. And then a little bit of bump it, pretty big bump, 8 dB, almost 12 dB at, or excuse me, only 3 dB at about 12K. And then another few dB at around 56 Hertz. So this is great because, again, like we were saying a little earlier about having kind of a master EQ, a master bus EQ, this could be kind of like your master bus EQ to do a little bit of fine tuning all combined into the tape machine. So with these EQ settings, and we also still have on the record head, we still have the ability to add some more of the high EQ if we wanted to, which would be pretty cool if we wanted to do that.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged. It's tearing me down.
Which is a lot more subtle than using the EQ that came from the console section. Now with these EQ settings, let's just cycle through the tape machines and we'll see, and then we'll turn the plug-in on and off.
Where does the peacefulness lie? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that I've left in me, I'm alright. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, putting it back in order. No, I'll always have this too. A little piece of you.
So it's amazing how much of a stark difference this is before and after because of all the EQ control. And it just has a more finished sound. When you use tape, it becomes a more familiar sound, especially if you're from the generation who grew up on records from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s. Most of that stuff commercially was recorded and mixed in analog studios where they recorded to tape and mixed to tape. So it gives you that more familiar sound. It almost is like it polishes and finishes everything off, and it takes any kind of harshness or brittleness that might be in the recording when we record everything digitally, and it could warm it up really nice. Very nice plug-in here. I really enjoy this one a lot. This one I would recommend you check out for sure. Last but certainly not least, probably maybe could be my favorite because I owned one of these. This is the Porta Studio, the little mini studio. I had this. This was probably a lot of you watching this did too, and they made different versions of this. But let's go back to the website. So here's the mini studio here, and that's exactly what mine looked like, folks. The Tascam Porta 1. Today, the Tascam Porta 1 is used for a lo-fi sounds, creative experiments, and even for live performance. However, when using its standard settings, the Porta 1 sound is warm and clear, offering a sonic signature that made so popular then and again today. So this was, Foztech used to make these. Tascam made a few different versions of these. This was, for many of us, with the old cassettes, this was our first home recording studio. Long before there was digital recording and digital mixers and digital recorders and also now DAWs, this is how it was done, with a cassette. So for all you youngins out there that are under the age of 25 or 30, this is the way a lot of us old folks did this. You used to have to go to a studio to record. And then when you started to record at home, these were some of the first recorders where you can record demos, get ideas together, and actually release full albums or full cassettes worth of music. Very cool, very nostalgic. I enjoy that a lot. Really cool. Let's check out, let's open that up and let's check it out and let's take a listen to this. So again, similar to the other plugins we've looked at, we have the input section, we have our record section where we can change the high EQ. We have a small EQ, a low and high EQ section, which is what the old unit had. We had tape type 1 and 2 with the different types of cassettes that you would buy, which is really cool. Tape type 1 is a low noise with high output, meaning you wouldn't have as much of the hiss, some of the noise floor. And tape 2, I don't know what tape 2 is. I'll have to read what it's kind of modeled on, but they have two different tape flavors. You don't have any tape speeds. You don't have any of the 4 tape formulas. You just have 1 and 2. You have your true stereo, your transport modeling, and then your output here, and then your power button, and then you can do the input. This is exactly what the unit used to look like. So let's set it up and let's take a listen. Very cool.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down.
Okay, so now that we're kind of level matched, and as soon as you turn it on, you hear that upper mids, gets a little bit more clarity. Let's go between the tape types, and I'll play around with some of the controls here.
Where does the peacefulness lie? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you.
Wow, what a big difference there between just the EQ curves between the two. Interesting, right? When you went to the old trusty cassette that you had to buy from your local, back in those days, your local, CVS or your local drugstore or your local big box store in those days, things like Crazy Eddie's, for people that remember that. Remember Crazy Eddie? Crazy Eddie store, electronic store, where you buy your tapes, or now Walmart and such. What a big difference.
And I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. But could we let this slip away, slipping through my hands? Back in the darkness, blind the day, bring back the light. Where is pleasure in pain? Where is my shelter in rain? Well, I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order.
Interesting. So when you go from input to repro, you get a big mid-range push on the repro side. Again, you can see I'm adjusting some of the EQ if you want to kind of make up for some of the difference between the two different tape types. We go to tape 2, it's very bright.
But no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
So this tape 2 is where they talk about the clarity. You get a nice, clean, clear sound, and depending on how you manipulate some of these controls, once again, you can shape the sound an awful lot. So between these 4 plugins, you really have a wide variety of, open these back up again here for you. You have a wide variety of stuff. Now you can buy, I don't believe you can buy these one at a time, at least not right now. You can buy them as part of a collection. It's the 4 Tape Machine Tascam collection. But I think because they are so pretty different from each other, that, again, you have everything you need here, that if you have these four and you're looking for that kind of a sound, you have everything you need. And when you combine that with maybe the other the other tape machine collection that we've looked at in the prior videos, you can click the link in the description box below. You have 8 really usable tape machines that all sound vastly different from each other, and it's pretty cool. I love IK-MultiMedia's tape machine modeling. They've always done a good job, some of the best in the business. The only thing that stinks about them is that the CPU is intense on these. These are not intended to be put across a multi-tracks, like many tracks across your whole mix, like you would do with something like the Slate Digital VTM. It's not designed for that. It's really designed to be on your master bus or maybe on your individual buses, drum bus, bass bus, guitar bus, and a master bus. However, if you put 3 or 4 of these on your system, it's going to crash your system unless you have a real high-powered computer, which I do. In all 4 of these will take up probably 70–80%. Just putting one of these instances on, if I turn all the plugins on and just put the power buttons on, and I look at my performance monitor, you will see it's running at 90%. Okay, so there's CPU hogs, but if you're only going to use one, and that's really what it's intended for, then you should be perfectly fine, unless you have a really old computer, and therefore that's going to be a problem anyway. But whenever you have these really accurate, well-modeled plugins, they tend to be CPU heavy. Some manufacturers are better than others at it, but I think the sound of these things is well worth it if you're only going to use one instance of it. So I hope you enjoyed our look here at the Tascam 50th anniversary plugins by IK-MultiMedia. Again, click the link in the description box below. Go out to IK-MultiMedia and you can demo them. If you purchase them, I don't get anything for it. So I think they're worth at least you guys taking a look at, and congrats to them for putting this out. I think they're really cool, and I want to thank them so much for giving me the license so I could bring this to you today. Now, because you stuck around to the end of the video, as I said in the beginning, I want to give you something else for checking out this video. So again, make sure you go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Even if you already have the free mixing course on my website, and many of you do because you're return viewers here, and I so much appreciate it, there is a ton of training on my website. Everything from recording to EQ to compression to mixing, both at beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels, mastering, and so much more. Make sure you check out all the courses on the website. And I want to give you a discount if you'd like to pick up one of those training courses. I want to give you 25% off any training course on the website. Just use the coupon code YouTube25 at checkout. The links will be in the description box below. And once again, if you want to try to win some of these plugins as part of our monthly mixing contest, make sure you check out mixingmadeeasy.net. If you want to learn how to mix your music in your home studio and achieve professional results in a very non-technical way, check out mixingmadeeasy.net. And thank you once again, IK-MultiMedia, for providing 3 free licenses, and I'm going to give away as part of our mixing contest. It's very nice of them to do that in exchange for this review. I appreciate it. I know my students are going to love winning one of these plugins because they're really, really cool, as you guys heard. So if you're not a member of mixingmadeeasy.net, make sure you check out the link in the description box below and go check it out. Until the next video, I've been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com and mixingmadeeasy.net, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.